We're doing an episode on the fly this Black Friday afternoon as the Boston Bruins are taking on the Detroit Red Wings, losing after two periods. Will that change? We'll have to see. And they're also back in action tomorrow afternoon against the Rangers. We'll preview that one as well here on a brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke to Be. Today is Friday, November 24th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every single day. We got a fantastic Black Friday deal for you. Locked On Boston Bruins, free in your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, subscription forever. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button. Each new episode sent directly to your feeds and YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Happy Black Friday, everybody. Hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. If you are an American listener, everybody else, it's the end of the work week, and we are taking it out by watching some afternoon Boston Bruins hockey. And as I record this first part of the show, it's at second intermission, and the Bruins are down 3-1. Before we get into how that happened, quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my dad jokes, and hockey thoughts at Ian C. McLaren. Now the Bruins finding themselves down 3-1 after two periods here on Friday against the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings opened the scoring pretty early on, 5:13, in fact, JT Compher with a power play goal. So Detroit getting the better of Boston's penalty kill on that one. They then scored about 15:01 of the first period after Matt Poitras tried to dangle out of the defensive zone. Absolutely pickpocketed by Alex DeBrincat, who went in on a breakaway and wristed one past Jeremy Swayman, who is celebrating his birthday today by being hung out to dry by his Bruins teammates. Boston did get on the board early in the second, thanks to a Jake DeBrusk power play goal that was assisted by David Pastrnak and Pavel Zacha. Now, you'll recognize that those names are first power play unit players. Jake DeBrusk getting that deployment here on Friday as James Van Riemsdyk was given the day off, with Morgan Geekie returning to the lineup from injury. Now, curious decision to continue to scratch Oscar Steen and also have James Van Riemsdyk out of the lineup, keeping Patrick Brown in with Geekie returning. I don't love it. I can see the logic, I guess. The Bruins have a busy schedule coming up, given the veteran James Van Riemsdyk the day off. My fantasy team doesn't love that, and I don't love that as a Bruins fan, but I can see the logic. And DeBrusk got the bump by getting that first power play unit deployment and scoring in his second game in a row. I talked, I think, yesterday about being thankful for him scoring the other night. 2 games in a row. We know that he is kind of streaky, and hopefully he gets it going here and goes on a run and back to a scoring pace that is more in line with what he's capable of. Unfortunately, the Bruins took another penalty later in the second period. Mason Lohrei went off for high sticking, and shortly after that penalty expired, the Bruins got a bit sloppy. Robbie Fabry was left to his own devices to the left of Jeremy Swayman, and he was able to wrist one pretty cleanly past him. Very unchallenged, I should say. So 3-1 for Detroit after 2 periods. We'll see if the Bruins can get going back here. I should add about Patra. I tweeted, I could see a scenario, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, where he's loaned to Team Canada for the World Juniors and perhaps sent back to Guelph before he's already burned a year of his entry-level contract, but at game 40 and beyond, that's when you burn a year of service, and your unrestricted free agency goes from 27 to 26. So I could see a scenario where he's sent back to avoid that. That was right after the turnover that led to the goal by DeBrincat. I should say he did rebound with some very strong shifts after that, some dominance in the offensive zone. And he also drew a penalty from Justin Holl late in the second period. The Bruins were not able to take advantage of that power play, but still, it was a nice rebound effort here from our boy Matt Patra. So that's kind of the story after 2 periods. The Bruins level with Detroit in terms of shots, 20-20 each. Each team with a power play goal. And kind of an off day so far for Jeremy Swayman, who after 2 periods had an .850 save percentage, 3 goals on 20 shots. Ville Husso getting his first start for the Red Wings after coming home from Sweden and his wife giving birth. So he's eager to get back in the net, kind of playing with that dad energy at the moment. Coming up as the podcast continues, we will discuss the third period of this game and the outcome, and also we will preview tomorrow's game against the New York Rangers. This time of year can be tough, and it's natural to feel some sadness or anxiety about it. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all the stress and change, something to look forward to make you feel grounded and give you the tools to manage everything that is going on. If you're thinking about starting therapy, I recommend giving BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So find a bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNHL today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOn to get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNHL. Thank you so much again for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day. It is the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. You just have to go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube to subscribe and get in on the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Well, those were not the Black Friday giveaways that I was hoping to see, as the Bruins losing 5-2 to the Detroit Red Wings on home ice. The Bruins had their point streak snapped at 7, only their second regulation loss of the season. And the Detroit Red Wings kind of had their number a little bit, as this was the second time that they have beaten the Boston Bruins this season. Now, we talked about how it was 3-1 after 2 periods. Donton Heinen had a very snappy goal early in the third period to put the Bruins within 1, assisted by Charlie Coyle and Mason Lohrei off a kind of intentional bank off the boards. But what were we saying? Penalty trouble. Again, the Bruins took 3 minor penalties in the third period, including 2 by Brandon Carlo, hooking against Joe Veleno and cross-checking Michael Rasmussen. And they were able to take advantage of one of those penalties with Dylan Larkin scoring to put them up 4-2. David Perron, our old friend from the Blues, icing it. You just can't have that happen. And Brad Marchand took a cross-checking penalty as well to put them even further in the hole, giving Detroit a brief 5-on-3. And a team like Detroit is going to take advantage of that. So unfortunately, the Bruins losing here on Black Friday, only their second regulation loss of the season. They're now 14-2-3, 31 points, an .816 point percentage, all still formidable numbers. But you can't come out with that kind of effort against a team like the Detroit Red Wings. They're going to take advantage of that. And full credit to Detroit for taking advantage of Boston's kind of lackluster play on home ice. Not the kind of effort you wanted to see here from the Bruins. Both of their regulation losses this season have come against the Red Wings after losing 5-4 back in Detroit on November 4th. So not great. The Red Wings now back in the playoff picture. They're currently third in the Atlantic, although pending some results from today's games. Tampa's playing tonight. Toronto's playing tonight. But these are the kind of games, the Bruins aren't going to win every game. They're not going to go 80-3 or whatever. These things happen, and the Bruins clearly were not on their A game here today. And we've seen them come on the wrong side of things in terms of the underlying numbers. They played good enough to win this one. They had, the advantage in terms of shot attempts. Shots in all situations were in favor of Detroit. But again, that comes back to the penalty issues. And the power play certainly was the difference in this one. Boston's usually on-point penalty kill, not able to get the job done here against the Detroit Red Wings. Scoring chances, the Bruins had 32 versus 22. High danger chances were 10-8, but expected goals fell in favor of Detroit. And again, a lot of that was because of the power play that was rolling at a pretty good clip for the Red Wings. 2 for 6. The Bruins did go 1 for 3, but the penalty kill rate well down from what they have been able to accomplish so far this season. The Red Wings are a sneaky team that could compete here in the Eastern Conference, but the penalties for the Bruins just too much for the penalty killing unit to overcome. Overworked. Bruins took 12 minutes in penalties in this one. And, I'm not a huge math guy, but 12 minutes out of 60 is too many for the Bruins to be shorthanded, and the Red Wings made them pay on this day. The Bruins won't have much time to lick their wounds from this one. They will be back in action tomorrow afternoon, Saturday afternoon, against the New York Rangers, a team that is playing very well. They beat the Flyers here this afternoon by a score of 3-1, and we'll preview this game a little bit more here as the podcast continues. But the big takeaways for me from Friday's game: Jake DeBrusk staying hot, scoring a goal. Donton Heinen continuing to contribute. I think he's got like 4 points in his last 5 games, which is fantastic at a $775,000 cap hit. Would have liked to have seen Van Riemsdyk in the lineup over Patrick Brown. I know it's kind of a load management thing, and you just can't take that many penalties. And hopefully they don't make the same mistake tomorrow against the Rangers, a game that we'll preview here as the podcast continues. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets for your next big event, and Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, they take the guesswork out of buying tickets. And with Game Time's best price guarantee, they will give you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. So the Bruins will now head down to New York City in advance of tomorrow's game against the New York Rangers. Those Rangers beat the Flyers 3-1 this afternoon, with Mika Zibanejad leading the way with 2 goals, Chris Kreider with a goal and an assist. And lest you think the Bruins will avoid hot goaltending by the fact that Igor Shesterkin played today, well, Jonathan Quick has been almost as good as Shesterkin so far this season, if you can believe it. And he's coming off a shutout and has a 940 save percentage, 5-0-1 with a 940 save percentage, 2 shutouts, a renaissance for Jonathan Quick in New York. Linus Ullmark will be in net with Jeremy Swayman getting the loss here today. He's 7-1-1 with a 932 save percentage. Ullmark is no shutouts yet, to his credit. Artemi Panarin is on fire to start the season so far. Zibanejad has been a bit quiet, although he's starting to pick it up, as I say, with 2 goals today. The Rangers are 8-1-1 over their last 10 games. They've won 2 in a row, and they're right up there with the Bruins in terms of the best in the Eastern Conference. In fact, they're 2 points back of the Bruins with a game in hand. They have an 806 point percentage compared to Boston's 816 and a plus 18 goal differential, which is second only to the Boston Bruins. So this is a showdown between the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference at the moment. Chris Kreider, like I mentioned, he's got 5 points in his last 5 games, coming in pretty hot. Alex Lafreniere is breaking out a bit. He's got 3 goals in his last 5 games. Vincent Trocheck, the Prius, chipping in 4 assists. This is a deep team up front and on the back end. Even with Adam Fox sidelined recently, they've got a guy like Eric Gustafsson who leads the team with scoring among defensemen. 13 points in 18 games. 2 more than Fox, who's played only 10 games, but he's filling in on the cheap. And really, the Rangers are a formidable opponent, and the Bruins will have to step up their game in order to hang with this team here on Saturday afternoon. The Rangers, very strong defensively, second only to the Bruins in terms of fewest goals allowed per game. 2.22 for the Bruins, 2.26 for the Rangers. So these 2 teams very similar in the fact that they play strong team defense. They've got this 2-headed goalie monster that's really helping things along. Offensively, they're very equal as well. 3.22 goals per game for the Bruins, 3.37 goals per game for the Rangers. Boston's ranked 14th. The Rangers are ranked 12th. Special teams, pretty even as well. Boston, their penalty kill after this effort dropped down to second, 89%. Rangers are 6th at 86.7. They have a much better power play, though. 29.8% is third in the NHL. 10th for the Bruins at 22.2%. So I don't want to say the Bruins could be facing their first losing streak of the season, but I'm not saying that either. The Rangers are a very tough opponent, and the Bruins could have some problems. Both teams are coming off a back-to-back, so that should level things out a bit. But the Rangers are a very, very good team, and things aren't getting any easier for the Bruins either. They, actually, I'm lying. They could get a bit easier after this one. They will get Sunday off, take on the Blue Jackets in Columbus although they're coming on kind of hot lately. They thumped the Blackhawks the other night. I believe they're winning again this afternoon. But then to end the month of November, the Bruins will host the Sharks, but then take on the Maple Leafs, with games coming up against Columbus, Buffalo, Arizona. So, again, in today's NHL, you can't take the foot off the gas, and they'll have to try to shake this one off and come back strong tomorrow in New York, I would imagine. Van Riemsdyk will be back in the lineup. I'd like to see Patrick Brown out, and we get the Geeky in there with Van Riemsdyk, Poitras, DeBrusk. The Bruins are pretty deep, and Donton Heinen's coming on too, so that should help as well. Anyways, that's it for today's episode, my friends. A bit of an on-the-fly one here. I hope you're all enjoying your Black Friday. I went out and bought this nice new mouse because mine broke. And that's about it. We're going to go watch the Storm play tomorrow. Sans, Poitras, of course. And basketball this weekend. Busy one, especially as the holidays come up. And thank you so much once again for joining me. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll be back on Monday for a fresh episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.